Sorry about that, folks. I left myself on mute. Welcome, everybody. I hope everyone's having an awesome Thursday, Friday Junior, folks. Derry Bennett, Michael Hasser, Quad Bennett, Heat, how's it going? Welcome, welcome, everybody. Trump's speech tonight at the last RNC. My kid says hello. Well, hello, howdy. Folks, we got a lot to talk about, folks. Ah, she's watching Bluey. Let's let the swearing commence. All right, on it. The simulacra Trump's speech is scheduled for 9 p.m. to 10:30 Central, so starting around 10 p.m. Eastern. Oof. Yikes. Well, I'll see if I make it to that time. I'll see if I make it. I got these cheese puffs. And they're pretty freaking good. I'll be up but not watching that. I'll see. I'll see if I can stomach it. We'll see. I wonder where Alio is. He got tired of repeating himself, I guess. I don't know. I think the liberal mind virus got to him. For some reason, the speaker before Trump is Dana White, the head of the UFC. Yeah, well, he's a big he's a big right winger. Like he's a big Trump supporter. So I think that kind of makes sense, and he's super wealthy. So that kind of tracks. That kind of tracks. It means Trump is going to do a lot of dumb Trump-ish for the next 4 years. Yeah, we know that. But that doesn't mean it's over for the left. Hulk Hogan is coming too? Oh, man. Phenomenal. Presidential electoral politics is where the left has the least influence. Yeah, that's true. New merch. Folks, before we get started, there is a new merch store that, by the way, lets you gift merch to people like you would give subs. It's actually pretty cool. I'll show you guys. Listen, there's a lot more that can be done in the next 4 years than in the next couple of months. That's true. Check this out, folks. The brand new merch store. that was replaced from the Stream Elements store. Look at that. There's still going to be work done behind the scenes, but this is where we're going to start. This is the starting point. I'm going to start ordering some samples myself and checking out what it looks like. Me too, honestly. Like, the backpack is where it's at. That's what I'm looking for. I love backpacks. All right, folks, let's get started. Oh, also, folks, join the Discord, folks. Join the Discord. I could use a shirt or two. Don't worry. Do not worry.
Of a content warning. This video was essentially done and ready to upload to Nebula on the evening of Saturday, July 13th. Also on the evening of Saturday, July 13th, there was an assassination attempt in Pennsylvania with innocent people hurt and killed in what was really a pretty traumatic event for this whole nation. So not a good day to upload content of any kind, honestly, but it's a couple days further on. The Republican National Convention is in full swing, and time is really kind of running out to talk about the issues that really matter in the upcoming election. So if you personally are not ready for Project 2025 content, I can totally understand that. Maybe save this one for later or just don't watch it at all. But for the rest of you, let's just get to it. Slashing fuel efficiency standards on motor vehicles, redefining public transit as just Uber, prioritizing any and all legislative support for the single-family home. I wish I could tell you these were the worst ideas in Project 2025, but it gets so much worse. Just an incredible assortment of idiotic policy proposals that seem designed to wreck our cities. And we're going to talk about all of it coming up next. This is City Nerd, weekly content on cities and transportation.
This guy's a great channel with tons of content on cities and city planning, but this stance on 2025 project, but this is his stance on Project 2025 and it's not good. Yeah, probably because it's probably super relevant to his content, right?
Your suggested topics always welcome, and I'd already been contemplating doing something about Project 2025 for a while now because it's atrocious, it's stupid, but it's also funny in a very dark way. And recently, there was a groundswell of support from people in my Patreon Discord to do something on this, and I'm not above being persuaded by Family Guy memes. So this is a tricky one. On the one hand, if you watch this channel, I figure that means there's probably a lot of stuff we already agree on. Plus, it's hard for me to imagine there are still people who are on the fence about this election. But you only have to look at Twitter or like the front page of the New York Times to see people spending more brain cells complaining about the minutia of the Democrats' campaign tactics than they do on what the actual stakes in this election are. I mean, it's totally fine to worry about the horse race, but it's also a bit like fretting about the leaky faucet in the bathroom while there's a 5-alarm fire ripping through your neighborhood. So I'm going to basically spend this whole video laying out how damaging it's going to be to our cities, and particularly transportation, if the Republican candidate for president wins the November election. But I can already hear the complaints of, well, Democrats campaign on fear and they fundraise off of all the bad things they say will happen if the other side wins, which, by the way, are true things, and Democrats would be stupid not to campaign on them. But I do want to point out that there's an extremely positive case that can be made that that the Biden administration has been very, very good on a lot of the things that a lot of us care about. And that isn't what this video is about, but it's definitely something that just doesn't get talked about enough. For today, I'm only talking about the city and transportation aspects of what's in the Project 2025 document. And I think we're going to agree that those things are largely very bad, but it's just a small piece of what's in the overall document, which is full of all sorts of super enlightened stuff that's definitely aimed at making this a better country and not a Dark Ages white Christian nationalist ethno-state. But I'm not going to talk about any of that.
Amazing. And he currently lives in Albuquerque, my hometown. Gotcha.
You decide if it's important to you.
Hey guys, so there has never been a more important moment to make a
The
donation.
next president
Here's
of the
deal.
United
J.D.
States.
Vance's first loyalty.
Okay, let's get into what Project 2025 actually is. The document is actually called Mandate for Leadership, the Conservative Promise. Maybe Conservative Threat would have been more accurate, but
True.
Either way, I find the actual title of the document a lot more ominous than Project 2025, which is really kind of anodyne. The document is from the Heritage Foundation, which was founded in the 1970s and quickly became very influential in the Reagan administration. In fact, in January 1981, right at the outset of the Reagan presidency, the Heritage Foundation published a document called Take a Wild Guess, Mandate for Leadership, which was a comprehensive set of recommendations centered on important policy goals like cutting taxes for rich people and gutting pesky environmental regulations. Well, over half the document's recommendations were implemented in the first year of that administration, and the Heritage Foundation has only grown more influential since then. All of this is to say, this isn't a new thing, but as you're going to see, it's just a lot more insidious now. Okay, one more thing to address before I get into what's actually in Project 2025, which is that the guy it's aimed at claims ignorance about all of it. Certainly, you can decide whether to take this at face.
Yeah. Speaking of dry humor, Bob Newhart has died. Yep. That's true.
Value or not. I mean, the guy does have an immaculate track record of scrupulous truth-telling, but if you're really wondering whether he actually takes recommendations from ultra-conservative think tanks, I'd urge you to consider not only who he nominated for the Supreme Court, but the 230-odd other federal judicial appointments he made, and where he got that list of nominees from. Okay, let's get to the actual document, which is a 920-page opus that's just chock full of brilliant ideas. And I just have to share the opening call to action. We want you. The 2025 Presidential Transition Project is the conservative movement's unified effort to be ready for the next conservative administration to govern at 12 noon, January 20, 2025. Welcome to the mission. By opening this book, you are now part of it. Like, they just open with a curse. The document has separate...
True. I thought he died a few years ago. No?
Chapters discussing in detail all the specific actions the incoming administration should take in order to make every department and agency in the federal government immeasurably more useless. I mostly want to talk about transportation here, but let's hit the chapter on housing and urban development really quick, because it crystallizes a big theme that runs through this whole document, which is the idea of getting rid of competent administrators and replacing them with partisan hacks. I mean, political appointees. It would be totally comical if it weren't so serious. I mean, think about your own job. Were you hired because you had beliefs that were sufficiently extreme so as to please your superiors? Or were you hired because you were actually qualified to do the job? Well, Project 2025 doesn't work like that. Actual policy recommendations? Congress should prioritize any and all legislative support for the single-family home. Not really shocking at all. And then within the same paragraph, American homeowners and citizens know best what is in the interest of their neighborhoods and communities. But also, a conservative administration should oppose any efforts to weaken single-family zoning. So citizens should decide what's best right up until the moment that they decide on something we don't like. Got it. All right, let's go to the heart of what...
Amazing. This thing seems like it was written by coked up interns. What, Project 2025? Yeah. Unfortunately, personally, I thought, like, this looks like a freaking pipe dream, but it's definitely more thought out. I mean, they've been doing this for decades, so I expect there's a lot of coke done at the Heritage Foundation. I know it's been a culmination of years of effort. You have the freedom to live how we think you should. Exactly. Yeah, coke brought with coke money.
What I want to talk about in Chapter 19, the Department of Transportation. Fair warning, there's going to be a lot of just comically stupid stuff in here, but let's go ahead and start with what I think just might be the headline. The Department of Transportation's discretionary grant-making processes should be abolished, and funding should be focused on formulaic distributions to the states. So instead of funding DART or Cap Metro or Houston Metro, we're just going to send all the money to TxDOT and let them decide if they want to spend money on anything besides freeway widening projects. Doesn't seem problematic at all. They give two reasons why grants should be abolished. One, because we should really be moving away from a federal gas tax and toward quote-unquote user charges that affect the decisions of transportation system users. Man, I actually agree with all that, and it's actually exciting to see that Trumpers are totally pro-congestion pricing. Maybe Governor Hochul should read this. Second, if funding must be federal, it would be more efficient for the US Congress to send transportation grants to each of the 50 states and allow each state to purchase the transportation services that it thinks are best, which seems reasonable as long as you don't think about it too much. But the reality is...
True. True, not freedom, required to live how they want you to. Exactly. Even half of this is accomplished is going to be a bad time. Yep. Wolfglen, welcome.
There's a huge mismatch between where the political power is at the state level and where the actual population and economic productivity are, which is our big metro areas. You see this all the time in transportation decision making in every state, whether it's Texas or New York. And federal discretionary grant programs like what we've had under the Biden administration are just one part of rectifying that mismatch. I guess you could argue that there's no federal interest in making sure our cities, which are disproportionately responsible for the economic might of the nation, have appropriate transportation investments, but I've never heard a credible version of that argument. Let's go to a couple other things in this document that are just absolutely crazy making. When they start listing the quote-unquote pressing transportation challenges that most directly affect average Americans, number one on the list is the high cost of personal automobiles. Like, that's really what they see as problem one, despite the fact that driving is cheaper in the US than it is in practically any other developed country. And the only reason we spend so much on it is because we have such high vehicle miles traveled per capita, which is because we don't fund other transportation choices. Project 2025 is just full of circular, self-defeating logic like this. The language they have around equity, like acknowledging that transportation benefits and impacts tend not to be distributed in a just way, is pretty atrocious, and the hostility toward the whole concept of carbon emissions is as well, although it's not surprising, I guess. Safety. Project 2025 has a completely different conception of what transportation safety is compared to, people who actually study this stuff and know what they're talking about. Like, one tortured argument they make for why we should be rolling back regulations to make cars less expensive is because we want more people to buy more new cars because newer cars are safer. This is, how do I put this, a very auto manufacturer-centric way of thinking about safety.
Yeah, another way of putting it is auto companies wrote this. They want to subsidize the car companies more, exactly.
The trends show that the new cars that people buy most often are safer for the people inside the vehicle and a lot less safe for the people outside the vehicle. Another winner. They hate that the Biden administration has embraced the concept of reducing roadway fatalities because it sometimes means slower vehicle speeds. Just in case you're wondering what these people's priorities are. Another area that's a real head scratcher is the whole section on corporate average fuel economy, or CAFE standards. They're upset because the standards the Biden administration put in place are hard to meet for internal combustion engine or ICE vehicles. I mean, this is kind of the point. You want to incentivize auto manufacturers to increase production of electric vehicles so you can meet the overall target. But the Project 2025 folks hate this because history shows people have a clear preference for ICE vehicles. Like, I can't say for sure that this whole section was literally written by an oil derrick, but they definitely get an F for data interpretation. Another thing that's comical is these people are all about devolving federal power down to the state level, right up until the moment California wants to do something even more climate friendly than what federal policy requires. So the section ends with 2 recommendations. 1, reduce fuel economy targets to levels that can be met with ICE vehicles alone because electric vehicles are woke, I guess. And 2, revoke California's ability to decide on its own targets because it's California. Real quick, I just want to point out that I'm focusing on what Project 2025 says, which is mostly pretty abhorrent, but it's important to recognize what it doesn't say. Like, there's basically no mention of road safety other than to complain that addressing it might require cars to go slower sometimes. And there's absolutely no mention of passenger rail of any kind at all, which would be a bit of a change in focus from the current administration. Okay, in a minute I'm going to get to what I think are actually the most egregious parts of this, including the somewhat diabolical strategy they have for actually making all this happen. But first, brief reminder to click on all the things. This is actually the kind of video where a lot of people tend to hit the unsubscribe button. So if you've been considering joining the Patreon, this might be a good week for it. Like, if I'm down subscribers but up patrons, then I feel like there's at least a core audience that cares about me just saying what I think, regardless of its impact on the algorithm. You know, in a way, there's nothing all that new in Project 2025. These are people who always want to shrink government, cut regulation, and burn the social safety net to the ground. What I think is different this time, though, is how strategic they're being in how they want to implement all of it, and the level of urgency that's apparent when you read the document.
You're going to have to get used to asking questions that might make you a little bit uncomfortable. Philosophy is...
I'm talking about...
I'm good. Electric cars are for gays and communists. What does that mean? I'm confused. California has a new law, not sure what year, but cars will not be able to go more than 10 miles per hour over the speed limit.
About the language around this day one stuff. History teaches that a president's power to implement an agenda is at its apex during the administration's...
How Oh, okay. How are they gonna make that happen, Wolfclan? Like, how would they know that you're going 10 miles an hour over the speed limit? Because, like, what if your speed limit is, I don't know, say 15 miles an hour, but GPS? Through GPS? I don't know if I'm good with that. That seems like that seems like ripe for exploitation. In the sense that, like, people could really, like, mess with that. Kamikaze, welcome. They will know where you are. Yeah, but, like, couldn't that be exploited to, like, couldn't that be an avenue of more of a way to, like, unironically potentially say potentially hacked new cars? That can totally ruin you, maybe. Oh, old cars, no. Gotcha. Off-world colonists, what they're saying is make it more noticeable. Usually a Kappa emote like this one denotes sarcasm.
Opening days. We're forming agency teams and drafting transition plans to move out upon the president's utterance of "so help me God." Like, you might have heard Trump say he plans to be a dictator on day one and, I don't know, like a super normal dude after that. Probably not a coincidence. It's funny though, I feel like trying to jam a bunch of policy items through in the first 24 hours is kind of another way of saying that if we do it slower and the American people actually see what we're up to, they're not gonna like it. It's really just a bald admission that your ideas are unpopular. And how do they plan to build this apparatus? They need to do as much damage as possible to the country in 24 hours. This is actually my favorite part. It's the construction of a database of potential partisan hacks that they can install at every level of government. Like, they're just accepting resumes from random incels. Don't know anything about transportation? Doesn't matter. That's not an important qualification. In other words, get ready for DC to be overrun by a whole army of Charlie Kirk wannabes. Okay, I am not done with
Amazing. I can't
US
wait.
DOT yet because we still have to talk about transit. Not only is Project 2025 hostile to public transit, they want to change its very definition. There's a whole section where I think they're trying to talk about microtransit, and they're definitely talking about ride hailing, so I'll just paraphrase it because their grasp of the terminology isn't great. Micromobility, ride-hailing, and autonomous vehicles can alter the nature of public transit, making it more affordable and flexible for Americans. Unfortunately, DOT now defines public transit only as transit provided by municipal governments. A better definition of public transit would be transit provided for the public rather than transit provided by a public municipality. So public transit just means transportation that the public uses.
That's not how that works. That's literally not how that works. That's pretty pretty dangerous because then you could define public transit such as Uber. Yeah, public transit means nothing then, right? Because then everything is public transit.
Seems fine. Can I just say, there isn't a single one of the world's great cities that could ever function adequately without public transit. Yet, Project 2025's utter disdain for transit is palpable throughout Chapter 19. Transit investments mean, quote unquote, throwing good money after bad, so the best course of action would be to remove federal subsidies for transit spending. It's like these people have no understanding and not even any curiosity about how cities actually work. This isn't anywhere near the darkest stuff in this 900 plus page document, but as far as transportation in cities go, it's pretty grim. I do encourage you to read the document if you can stomach it, and I've left a link to the PDF down in the description. You might take a peek at the final section, ominously titled Onward. Really a fitting title because the work of these geniuses never seems to end and just gets progressively worse. They do point out that from the 2016 mandate for leadership, the Trump administration implemented 64% of the recommendations in the first year. So maybe only 64% of Project 2025 will get implemented, but given that everything in the document is terrible, that's probably about 64% too much. So there's work to do. I'll leave links down in the description for things I think people could do to help beyond just voting. And for me, I'm probably focusing on swing states the rest of the year. I do have a sponsor for today's video, and I'm hoping that because they're Australian, they'll be happily oblivious to what Project 2025 even is. Maybe this time next year, I'll be Australian, come to think of it. Anyway, I am going to be traveling and shooting video and doing events in the relevant states about...
Lots of cities spend like mad on public transit, that the transit sucks, and then Republicans use it to justify to reduce... Yeah, but that's like the classic, right? That's like the classic argument, right? To reduce the spending. NYC is a great example. Discussing public transit runs terrible, but it's among the expensive. And Republicans want to reduce it and reduce the spending in public transit projects. We need to figure out where the money really goes. Yeah, usually the answer to that is like usually privatization or usually lobbyists that junk up the way the public transportation or public options of whatever you're looking into, usually you'll usually find your answer. It is messed up.
once a month. I just got done doing North Carolina and Arizona, and I think like Michigan and Georgia are on deck. It's going to be a lot, but that's where today's sponsor, Bellroy, comes in. Bellroy began in
Gotcha. Okay, I think this is the end of the video. Lobbyists probably figure out how to bleed the influx of cash, but we have to prove it. Very interesting. Shifting gears.
Home Depot then saw that.
Whoa. Thank you for playing it. No, it's pretty good. Thank you for sharing.
Are you Darcy? Yeah? Okay, from Cayuga? And you think that the shooter should have been a better shot? Is that what you posted on Facebook?
Amazing.
You think that the shooter should have been a shooter, huh?
I am at work.
Yeah, I think that's pretty messed up. Pretty anti-American if you ask me. As a veteran, I'm disgusted. What have you provided to this country? Huh? I'm sorry. This is ridiculous. You are ridiculous. And I'm making you famous.
Cool.
You just watched a video of a Trump supporter harassing what I'm assuming is a minimum wage worker at a Home Depot because she made an edgy post on Facebook about Donald Trump. Now, that video actually got on the radar of Chaya Raichik of Libs of TikTok, who then shared it to her 3 million plus followers.
Main character symptom. Yeah. Is why I don't believe in forcing people to go online with their real name. Lady just lost her job over opinions. Cancel culture.
While tagging Home Depot, that woman's employer. She then followed up with a screenshot of the comment that the woman made about the 20-year-old who tried to assassinate Trump, which read, "Too bad they weren't a better shooter." Home Depot then saw that post after it went viral, and they responded by confirming.
Just to be clear, like, these are the same people that were complaining about the woke mob, the leftist, communist, socialist, woke left mob that engaged in cancel culture, is now doing the same thing. I thought cancel culture was bad. Exactly. It's not bad unless we do it. That's the motto here. We can't have opinions. None. No opinions. It's not tasteful, but not illegal. Right, like, just to be clear, don't know if telling a comedian they suck is the same thing as getting a retail worker fired. True. Just to be clear, like, I wouldn't make these comments, and I wouldn't make, make these jokes or whatever, but it's just rich. Coming from the same people who were talking about cancel culture for the past however many years, decades at this point, just different iterations, right? It used to be political correctness, whatever. The point being is that those are the same people that are now engaging in the same thing, and thinking that, like, there's no hypocrisy here. I would make those comments behind the fake account. Lou Dobbs dead. Oh no. Anyways. Yeah, just keep it to you and your friends. Right. Like, again, I personally would not make, comments like this. And now I've got to bite my tongue about Lou Dobbs. Yeah, the woke cancel culture, the woke right-wing mob will get you, the simulacra. You can't have opinions nowadays because of the woke right. Because of the woke right wing. Does your job know about your streaming? No, I don't think so. They come in threes. Who's next?
Confirming that she had indeed been terminated because of that Facebook comment.
Yeah, also, like, Home Depot is pretty, well, they're a corporation, so they're pretty conservative, but, like, they're pretty conservative. Welcome, Echo Resto Dragon.
But that woman is not alone, because Chaya Raichik also pointed out a comment from a Pittsburgh firefighter who shared a similar comment on Facebook, writing, "Too bad it didn't hit him square." And even though he wasn't fired, he did end up resigning from his position as a firefighter after making a post about how his entire life had basically been ruined.
Yeah, man. I'm telling you, cancel culture. The radical woke right is going too far with cancel culture. The real problem is that employers can fire workers for no reason. Correct. Corporations don't want to piss off customers, so they like to smooth things quickly. Right, and if it means just getting rid of a worker, what's it to them? They don't care. That's absolutely correct.
And he feels unsafe, and he was inundated by threats. Now there's more. Raichik also put a restaurant worker on blast for joking about the Trump assassination attempt, along with multiple
Another cancel culture
teachers who made similar jokes. Now, put aside for a moment whether or not you think their comments were appropriate, and ask yourself this question. Is it justifiable to fire someone and subject them to an onslaught of harassment if they joke about someone dying or they say that they want someone to die? Should that disqualify someone from working at a Home Depot or being a firefighter or a teacher? Now, if the answer is yes, then ask yourself why it wouldn't.
Yeah, and like also, hey, aren't these the same people? He might actually get into this argument. But aren't these the same people that we're talking about how, like, the left wants to stop free speech or cancels free speech? Where are my free speech warriors at? Have you been watching the RNC convention? Against my better judgment, I've seen parts of it. Against my better judgment, I have seen parts of it. I do agree he's like a deity, quite literally. I don't know if you've seen the new fashion trend that he started with the bandages. Fire departments do tend to be filled with chuds. Also, people will bait you to say something and then film you. Right, yeah. That's true. Where's the free speech talk? Exactly. Where are my free speech warriors at? Come on.
Disqualify someone from being president. Now, I say this because Trump, the victim of that assassination attempt, made similar comments to those very same people that Chaya Raichik is now trying to get fired.
And we'll stand up to crazy Nancy Pelosi, who ruined San Francisco. How's her husband doing, by the way? Anybody know? And she's against building a wall at our border, even though she has a wall around her house, which obviously didn't do a very good job. If she gets to pick her judges, nothing you can do, folks. Although the Second Amendment people, maybe there is, I don't know. But
yeah. So you may be thinking there really doesn't seem to be a difference between the comments that Trump made and the comments that those people made on Facebook, you know? But there actually is a pretty significant difference.
Me too, especially ones who are holding sign mass deportations. Yeah, they were handing out those signs at the RNC tonight. Tonight is the final speech, I guess. So maybe if I can stomach it, if I'm being able to stomach it, I'll watch part of it. Did Trump just make a joke about Mr. Pelosi getting his head bashed in? Yes, he did. He also implicitly said that the Second Amendment people should do something. I'm assuming that it was back in the original campaign in 2015, 2016. And I'm assuming that he's talking about Hillary. The implication being the Second Amendment people should do something. Get it? The last night, thank goodness.
The difference is that the
last night of FashCon.
People who joked about the Trump assassination attempt are random nobodies, and Donald Trump is not a random nobody. He is the former president and could very well be the next president of the United States. What he says carries weight. What they say does not carry weight. Nobody's going to do political violence because Darcy from Home Depot inspired them to. But people will, on the other hand, do violence if Trump incites it.
And have.
In fact, it's already happened multiple times. So it feels absurd to hold regular ass people to a higher standard than the President of the United States.
The Mr. Cool DIY is the only ductless mini split heat pump.
Ah, yes.
If you can get fired from a Home Depot for saying that, then Trump shouldn't be able to be president for saying what he said. Now, having said that, though, it's important to be nuanced. If there's an actual threat of violence behind those jokes that they're making, that's an entirely different story. But that's not the case with these people. And I can't believe that I have to say this, but we're allowed to joke about people dying or nearly dying. You are allowed to say that you hope someone dies. That is protected speech under the First Amendment, even if you think it's grotesque. And we should all be very happy that that is protected speech, because if it weren't, we'd all be thrown in jail. I've lost count of how many people in the YouTube comment section have told me that they would love to see Hamas throw me off of a building because I'm gay and I defend Palestinians. Now, I think that that is a really fucked up thing to say, but I don't think that the person making that comment should lose their livelihood for saying it. Now, if you watch The Leftist Mafia, I've made endless jokes about Henry Kissinger dying because I felt like those jokes were justified, since he is literally a mass murderer. So everybody, once in a while, memes a little bit too close to the sun. But punishing normal working class people, I'm sorry, that is just downright detestable to me. And it's especially gross to see Chaya Raichik, of all people, play hall monitor after she's made a career for herself ruthlessly defaming and slandering LGBTQ plus people. But ever since we've entered the Trump era, violent rhetoric has increased, in large part thanks to Donald Trump. He's the one who normalized it. And what's become increasingly clear is that right-wingers, they're really comfortable whenever a conservative public figure espouses violent rhetoric, but they won't tolerate violent rhetoric if it comes from a liberal public figure. For example, Kathy Griffin lost everything because she posed for this picture with a severed Trump head. Now, I cannot stand Kathy Griffin, but how is it okay for Trump to raise the specter of Hillary Clinton getting assassinated, but that picture somehow crosses a line? Why does one cross the line but the other doesn't? Why is it incitement of political violence when Biden called
Hypocrisy. Kissinger was the devil. Call the cops on me.
calls Trump a threat to democracy, but it's not incitement when Trump quotes Hitler and says that immigrants are poisoning the blood of this country? Is that not an incitement against every single immigrant in this country? Either all of it's okay or none of it's okay. But one thing that's become increasingly evident is that there's this double standard that exists when it comes to violent rhetoric. Conservative celebrities like Kid Rock can shoot up cases of Bud Light in response to their sponsorship of a trans influencer, but if a liberal celebrity happens to make an edgy joke, well, that might be it for them. For example, at a recent Tenacious D concert in Australia, Jack Black brought out a birthday cake for his longtime friend and bandmate, Kyle Gass. Now, after he sang him happy birthday, he told him to make a wish. Now, watch what he wished for.
Hasn't it been the right wing who for the past 8 years have been telling people, I'll call a person a slur and base and I don't give a... Yeah, like basically, and now all of a sudden, you know, yeah. Yeah, it's funny how that works, right? Let me just rewind that.
Australia, Jack Black brought out a birthday cake for his longtime friend and bandmate, Kyle Gass. Now, after he sang him happy birthday, he told him to make a wish. Now, watch what he wished for.
Make a wish, Canada. Don't miss Trump next time.
Is it making a wish to the devil?
He made a joke, and like Kathy Griffin, immediately lost everything. On Instagram, Jack Black writes, I was blindsided by what was said at the show on Sunday. I would never condone hate speech or encourage political violence in any form. After much reflection, I no longer feel it is appropriate to continue the Tenacious D tour, and all future creative plans are on hold. Now, listen, I understand him trying to play it safe and apologizing to be responsible. I appreciate that because he is a public figure and he obviously doesn't want people to think that he's endorsing political violence. But it was a joke. And he's basically canceling his friend that he's had for decades, all because of a joke. You can say, look, it was a terrible joke, and it's something that I don't agree with. I unequivocally condemn it. We apologize for it and then move on. But that wasn't sufficient, apparently. Kyle Gass himself has come out and apologized profusely and said it was stupid and wish he didn't say that. But just stop for a moment and ask yourself, if a conservative celebrity or a politician joked about a Democratic president, for example, being assassinated, would you expect them to have as much scrutiny or even hold themselves to as high of a standard as Jack Black is holding his own friend to? I don't think anybody does. For example, Republican Congressman Joe Walsh blamed Obama for the shooting of police officers in Dallas and tweeted, "This is now war. Watch out, Obama. Watch out, Black Lives Matter punks. Real America is coming after you." And all he had to do was delete the tweet, and that was it. I don't even know if he apologized, actually. Now, he's brought on TV as a commentator. He's one of the reasonable Republicans since he's anti-Trump. Now, I'm not saying that Kyle Gass or a liberal celebrity like Kathy Griffin can't have their careers rehabilitated, but there's this baked-in expectation, it seems, that Republicans are allowed to use violent rhetoric all the time and nobody bats an eye, and that's fine. We're supposed to accept it. But liberals can't do that. And I'm not saying that anyone should be using political rhetoric that's violent. I'm just saying there's a very clear double standard that's being exposed here. Now, another person who was canceled over this is streamer Destiny. He was just banned from Kick because of comments that he made about the Trump assassination attempt. Now, people have pointed out that Kick is a platform that has not banned literal pedophiles, so that's a little bit sus if you ask me. But Destiny went on Piers Morgan to defend.
Kyle Gass got dropped. Kyle Gass got dropped by his talent agency. Who, if Kid Rock had said the same thing about Biden, he would be called a based American who says how it is exactly. I recall Ted Nugent saying on stage that he was going to shoot Hillary Clinton and that got him invited on all the right-wing shows. Amazing.
Defend himself and debate Dave Rubin about violent rhetoric. And here's how that went down.
Your position seems to be that anyone from Donald Trump to his supporters who represents their thinking, their ideology, their political views, that if they are killed by an assassin at a rally, then they deserve what's coming to them. And in your words, fuck them. I mean, do you not understand that to most decent Americans and to decent people around the world, that is incredibly offensive?
Oh, shut up. Spare me the faux civility now. After like years and years of these people inciting, after years and years of conservatives inciting violence and glorifying violence, and particularly glorifying political violence, like, now it's like, oh, well, you know, to decent people and to decent Americans, don't you think that, like, that's incredibly offensive? Shut up.
And makes you look like a two-faced hypocrite. Somebody who wants...
I recall someone showing up to a rally in a state he didn't live in with a weapon and then went on the right-wing talk shows. Yep, that's true. That's true. Beers was the main one fighting for the First Amendment, so he didn't have to say pronouns, and now he pulls this.
The other side to behave to a certain level of decency.
I don't want
but
the other.
Oh, now we want to talk about decency and whatever. Shut up.
Incapable of displaying it.
The conservatives don't have it in them to have that level of decency.
So why don't you rise to a higher bar? Why don't you yourself show them the promised land, Destiny? Show them the way they should.
But they don't want that. They don't want that, though. The problem that is that it's happening to them. Okay, that's the issue. The existential crisis going on here. That's what's happening here. That's why they're upset. I like the idea of conditional freedom of speech. That's not how that works. Does Destiny do nose candy? His jaw rocks a lot. Well, I don't know. To be quite frank.
Should be behaving.
Have been doing it for 8 years. There's nothing to be gained there. So instead, we'll just have a laugh instead. When you're asking for this type of decency, you're saying like they did for Pelosi's husband, like they.
True. I don't think they're actually upset. They just take any opportunity to cry. True. That's a good point.
Did for BLM people, like they did for the endless. He didn't die, but he got the crap beat out of him with a hammer, and they made jokes about his
and
gay
by the way,
lover.
the jokes were disgusting. Why can't you say the same thing about the people making mockery of Trump? Why do you join the mob?
It's not just because it's not just the jokes. It's the underlying substantive analysis as well. It's the lack of responsibility for January 6th. It's the lack of responsibility for the Gretchen plot. It's the lack of accountability for all the comments made about BLM protesters, George Floyd, for all of these.
But by your yardstick, what the Republicans should do in response is simply say, "Fuck all of them, fuck them all. Who cares?"
Pierce, that's what you're not understanding. Pierce, listen to me. This is what you're not understanding. You keep bringing this up to me, like, well, Destiny, if you act like this, aren't conservatives just going to do? And then you say a thing, but they've done this for 8 years.
Now, I don't think that Destiny came off looking very good here.
Going at him for this after he spent months and months defending genocide? Yeah.
And part of the reason why there was so much backlash to him online was because he didn't just joke about the Trump assassination attempt, even though if he limited it to just that, there would still be a lot of backlash. But he also joked about the firefighter who was murdered at the event. So this was a regular person, and while I disagree strongly with that person's political views, I do find it tragic that he was murdered. Of course, that's terrible and reprehensible. With that being said, Destiny found an old tweet of that guy about Gaza where he said they'll get over it. The Japanese did. And Destiny, I'm assuming, was trying to prove the point that this political movement that he's a part of has normalized violent rhetoric and political violence. Now, I think that you can make that same exact point without celebrating the death of this normal person. Having said that, though, the overall point that Destiny is making about this double standard between liberals and conservatives is undeniably true. For example, watch this next clip where Dave Rubin reacts to comments that Destiny makes.
You condemn the shooter shooting.
So now we have victim culture on both sides. I don't know about that. Now they got louder and more arrogant in 8 years. They've been doing it for decades.
Donald Trump.
No. Not here, not on this program, not in front of these people. Absolutely
You do not condemn a direct...
No, he said not in front of these people and not on this program because of the whole point that he was making about the double standard, how now everybody wants to be all but civility. That's the point.
In front of these people...
Shooting
you are
Donald
truly
Trump.
just a child. This is not.
Actually,
this is not a
no.
competition
You know
here.
what,
We're
Charlie?
just trying to be decent human
You know what,
beings.
Charlie? It's not actually the behaviour of a child. It's the behaviour of somebody who's completely lost his moral compass. Dave Rubin, respond to what you've just heard from Destiny.
I mean, it's actually one of the most disgusting things that I've ever heard in my life.
This is rich coming from Dave Rubin.
Staff in my studio right now all gasped at that. When I happened to be at Target, the store Target we were checking out when I saw it on Twitter, and my heart actually sank. And I know that is the feeling of...
Shut up. Just shut up. Dude, we literally... Hey, Google. Okay, I'm memeing, but... hey, Siri, pull up Dave Rubin's tweet about Paul Pelosi. Can we pull that up where he made a joke? Something to the effect of he put like that song Hammer Time, okay? In reference to making the joke about Paul Pelosi. Pull that tweet up. So please spare me. Spare me.
Of probably 200 plus, if not 300 plus million Americans, even many of whom would vote against Trump and do not like Trump and all of those other things. The idea that you can't show sympathy or empathy for that is so profoundly sad.
Okay, so Dave Rubin is so shocked by the lack of...
Yeah, the MC Hammer song, that's right. Dave Rubin literally put a picture underneath some post about Paul Pelosi saying Hammer Time.
Empathy expressed by Destiny. Except, hey Dave, remember when you said this?
He's in first grade. Imagine if I found out that actually for 3 months there was a teacher talking to him about gender or sexuality, maybe calling him Justine instead of Justin, and I didn't know about that. I might kill that person.
My entire crew just gasped, Dave. There's a bunch of people behind the camera. My producers, my cameraman. We've got a lot of people behind the scenes here. It's a very big operation. They all just gasped after you said that, Dave. You just said you would murder a teacher if they transed your first grader or something. First of all, that's not a thing that's happening. Second of all, aren't you justifying violence against teachers for supposedly grooming kids? And don't you think that's dangerous? I mean, conservatives have accused teachers of being groomers for anything, having a rainbow flag in their classrooms. Like, they would accuse you of being a groomer since you have kids. So are you not justifying political violence there? Are you not raising the specter of...
Yeah, because like that's his job, Offworld. His job is to do is exactly that. Is to make violence pretty nonchalant. And his viewers know his viewers understand this. Right? Like that's exactly the point. Like just to make violence against people that you don't like, just to make it normalized and just pretty nonchalant, like, oh yeah, you know, that's what you're supposed to do. Right? That's what you're supposed to do.
Of assaulting or murdering teachers? But there's more. Here's Dave Rubin making a joke about the death of Aaron Bushnell, saying that he hopes AOC, Rashida Tlaib, and Ilhan Omar join him and commit suicide. Here he is saying, quote, Hamas wouldn't even rape these cows in response to a picture of Palestinian activists. And also here's Dave Rubin sharing a GIF of MC Hammer after Nancy Pelosi's husband, Paul Pelosi, was nearly blood.
What a piece of shit. Like, God, this guy's
to death by an intruder
such a piece of
who
shit.
showed up to their home to try to assassinate Nancy Pelosi. So do you see the problem here? These people are fucking hypocrites. That was the underlying point that Destiny was trying to make. So in
yeah, I mean, it's Dave Rubin. It's pretty much indistinguishable from 4chan content.
Conclusion, you know, I guess I just want to see more consistency. I know that's like, you know, not going to happen, but it'd be nice. You know, either it's all okay or none of it's okay. But I mean, spare me, in the meantime, with this selective outrage. Don't pretend that you're so shocked by a lack of empathy if you have none yourself. Don't pretend like you're outraged because you're decent or empathetic when you're not decent and you're not empathetic. But at a minimum, I guess I just want conservatives to at least try to hold themselves to the same standard that they're holding Darcy from Home Depot to.
They won't. They won't. The only silver lining, Dave probably hates himself more than we hate him. I don't know. Dave Rubin is just Dave Rubin's there for the grift. Dave Rubin is there for the bag, I think. Although it's just hard to tell because he's so stupid. He is very insecure. Okay, folks, we're gonna have to run through some of these because the final story is pretty important. Folks, it might be Jover. Stay tuned. U.S. Appeals Court blocks all of Biden's student debt relief plan. Nice. Cool. A federal appeals court on Thursday today blocked President Biden's administration from continuing to implement a new student loan relief plan designed to lower monthly payments for millions of Americans. The St. Louis-based 8th Circuit Court, U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals granted a request by 7 Republican states to put on hold parts of the U.S. Department of Education's debt relief plan that has not already been blocked by a lower court judge. So, yeah, Republicans are fighting tooth and nail to make sure that any scrap that could potentially help you, it gets taken away. That ruling last month by U.S. District Judge John Ross in St. Louis had blocked the department from granting further loan forgiveness under the administration's saving on the SAFE plan, but had not blocked all of the plan. The plan provides more generous terms than past income-based repayment plans, lowering monthly payments for eligible borrowers and allowing those whose original principal balances were $12,000 or less to have their debt forgiven after 10 years. Did you discuss Grindr getting shut down at the RNC? No. The servers were overloaded, too many users. Yeah, that tracks, honestly. State Attorneys General led by Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey subsequently last week asked the Eighth Circuit to block the rest of the SAVE plan. The court did so through a one-page order granting an administrative stay. Bailey on the social media platform Twitter hailed the ruling as a huge win for every American who believes in paying their own way. Amazing. He said the student loan plan would have saddled working Americans with $500 billion in Ivy League debt. That's not the way it works. It's been said that the RNC is a Super Bowl for Grindr. Tracks, honestly. An education department spokesperson said it was assessing the ruling's impact, would be in touch with any borrowers directly affected by it, and would continue to aggressively defend the SAVE plan. Biden, a Democrat, announced the SAVE plan in 2022 along a broader $430 billion program that would have fulfilled a campaign promise by canceling up to $20,000 in debt for 43 million Americans. It was ultimately blocked by the conservative majority Supreme Court in 2023. The SAVE plan was slated to take effect on July 1st, though parts of it have already been implemented. The White House said that over 20 million borrowers could benefit from the SAVE plan. The Education Department says 8 million are already enrolled, including 4.5 whose monthly payments have been reduced to zero. The Education Department on Thursday said it granted $5.5 billion to 414,000 borrowers through the SAVE plan. Another federal judge in Kansas has also blocked parts of the SAVE plan. Last month, though, a different federal appeals court, the Denver-based 10th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals, but part of the decision on hold. But part of that decision on hold. A group of Republican-led states have asked the U.S. Supreme Court to reinstate that injunction. We'll see what ends up happening with that. Florida man arrested over Biden death threats. Yep. Man, I suspect that, unfortunately, it's going to be a roller coaster of the next 4 months or so. A Florida man has been arrested over the death threats made against President Biden, the U.S. prosecutor announced yesterday, following the attempted assassination of former President Trump. Lawmakers' fears of political violence have deepened amid the period of growing threats against elected officials. Dude is accused of making threats against Biden and federal officials from a mental health facility in Tallahassee. And federal officials from a mental health facility in Tallahassee, Florida, and in social media posts, according to court documents. U.S. Secret Service agent interviewed Alday on July 1st after a worker at the facility where the accused man was a patient contacted the U.S. Secret Service about him, allegedly saying that he disliked Biden and wanted to kill him and slit his throat. He's not making any statements about Biden, according to the court documents. Days later, the Secret Service found posts on Twitter from the account the agency said it identified as his, containing threats to kill the president and multiple posts using racial slurs against the service agents who interviewed him. Amazing. Joe Biden's health is declining rapidly, not doing good at all. Should I finish him off? One post read, prosecutors allege. Yeah, so not surprising that stuff like this is going to be more and more prominent. Did you guys cover the undeleted social media posts from the Trump shooter? No, is that new? This morning. Can we get a quick TLDR on that? What did the post state? In states with strict abortion policies, simply seeing an OBGYN for regular care can be difficult. The chances that a woman can see a doctor while pregnant or during a time when she might become pregnant have fallen significantly since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, according to a new report released on Thursday today. The findings from the Commonwealth Fund, a nonpartisan healthcare research foundation, show that women living in states with history of health disparities, often in the Southeast, are affected the most. They are not only less likely to be able to afford a doctor's appointment, they're also less likely to be able to find an OBGYN in their area. Quote, these inequities are long-standing, no doubt, said Dr. Joseph Betancourt, president of the Commonwealth Fund, said during a media briefing Wednesday to discuss the report. But recent policy choices and judicial decisions restricting access to reproductive care have and may continue to exacerbate them. The report looked at more than a dozen measures of women's health care, including maternal mortality, preterm birth, postpartum depression, in all 50 states in 2022, the year of the Dobbs ruling. Yeah, this is pretty effed. Apparently, most of his social media was wiped, but some comments on Steam were pretty unambiguous stuff like, I'm going to shoot Trump and stuff like that. Yeah, didn't they confirm that the Steam account was fake? I thought they said that the Steam account, they found the authorities, that the authorities were combing through, didn't end up being true. Or rather, not that it was fake, but that it didn't belong to him. I'll have to look into that, but I remember seeing something like that. You're right. Something to the effect of something about a Steam account. I'll have to look into it. Yeah, because the docs don't want to be in jail. This is hefty. Yep. States with the most restrictive abortion policies. I was lurking at the time, so I don't know. Gotcha. States with the most restrictive abortion policies include Mississippi, Oklahoma, Texas, West Virginia, scored lowest in the new report. States that protected abortion care, including Connecticut, Massachusetts, and New Jersey, ranked highest. Makes sense. Women's health is in a very fragile place, said the lead author, Sarah Collins, Vice President for Health Coverage and Access and Tracking Health System Performance at the Commonwealth Fund. Quote, our health system is failing women of reproductive age, especially women of color and low-income women. Reasons for disparity are twofold. Women living in the lowest-ranking states are less likely to have health insurance to afford the doctor visits, and even if they can, there aren't enough OBGYNs to take care of them. That is, doctors specializing in obstetrics and gynecology are either leaving states with abortion restrictions or aren't going there in the first place. A 2023 survey of third and fourth year medical students found, for example, that such laws were a major deterrent in applying for residency programs in those states. It's not surprising that states with the most abortion restrictions or women's health policy restrictions are the same states that are having a real dearth of women's health workforce, said Dr. Deborah Bartz, an OBGYN at Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston. Quote, people are leaving those states because they can no longer provide the best care for their patients. I don't blame them either. Yep, doctors don't like death threats either. True. States that expanded Medicaid coverage had higher performances overall, according to the Commonwealth report. It's hard to stress how critical a source of coverage of Medicaid is for pregnant women, said David Radley, a senior scientist for Commonwealth Fund during Wednesday's briefing. Your zip code shouldn't dictate your reproductive health destiny, said Dr. Jonas Swartz, assistant professor of obstetrics and gynecology at Duke Health in Durham, North Carolina. But that is the reality. Yeah, that is the reality in a for-profit system, yes, which it shouldn't be.
People are already sending me the AP NORC poll out today. 65% of Democratic voters want Biden to drop out. And the irony is, I don't even know if Democratic voters want Trump to drop out as much.
Because we can beat him if we have somebody that.
Well, I think the point is the reason why people want Biden to drop out is because they don't want Trump to win.
Correct.
538 has their new odds out, and apparently it's their best odds for Biden since May 10th. 54 times out of 100 he beats Trump versus 46 out of 100. Now they have, pretty arcane way of weighting that, but just something to be said. I personally think Biden should still leave. I don't buy that at all.
I correct. 80. I want to correct myself. 86% of Democrats want Trump to drop out. 65% want Biden to drop out.
Oh, okay.
Maya knows how quality care can bring out a smile. Good thing Aspen Dental offers affordable, complete care.
I don't know what to tell you. I don't know if he will. We're reading stories that a lot of Democratic congresspeople are, contacting Nancy Pelosi, looking to Nancy Pelosi to do something about this. It's unclear to me whether, what's going to happen. At one point, I imagine there's going to be a point, I don't know if that's when he becomes nominated. Jamie Harrison, the chair of the Democratic National Party, was on Twitter yesterday spending at least what it seemed to be several hours in a Twitter fight with Nate Silver. Just a reminder to everybody out there, including if you are the chairman of one of the two national parties that are involved in what I think is going to be the most consequential presidential election of my lifetime. That election's happening in 4 months. You should be able to find better things to do than to argue with Nate Silver on Twitter. If you feel like you need to argue with Nate Silver on Twitter to get your message out, I suggest that maybe you head down to your comms department and fire them all.
There's had a spat with the Podjohns over who wrote George Clooney's op-ed the other week.
It's not your zip code, it's your net worth that determines it. Well, I think the point is that like where you are sometimes actually determines said net worth. Dark times indeed.
The problem that we have now, and look, this is a function of the media to some extent as well. But the problem we have now is that the Biden campaign has one purpose, and it's to maintain the Biden campaign, when it really should be to defeat Donald Trump. Please do not say the part of the problem is this program, because Joe Biden has not listened to us in this, in any other forum or any other time. The problem started with the debate. So,
and even the people who were on Biden's side said, well, he's going to prove himself in the coming weeks. And that ain't happened.
I mean, I was one of those people. Who said the debate strategy makes a lot of sense. Get Donald Trump out there as early as possible. I rated his State of the Union address one of the best I've ever seen. Put to bed all the questions about his capacity, because I don't think it's just about his age.
I don't know about that one.
There are 81-year-olds out there who are within our politics who have the ability to be agile on their feet, not literally, although literally too. But Biden just can't. He can't turn the ship, and he's getting worse even when he's reading.
Sometimes Sam sees what he wants to see. Yeah, this is one of those times.
Off the teleprompter. I don't, and frankly, again, I don't care. I mean, I love all these proposals he's coming out with, but if he doesn't win, it doesn't make any difference anyways.
Two-thirds of Democrats want Biden to withdraw. Democrats overall, 35 to 65%. Even black Democrats, 50% to 49%. That's the best demographic breakdown he has. 50% to 49%.
We'll see. I mean, supposedly we'll know in the next week or two. And look, there's a lot of controversy around this question as to whether the DNC needs to do this early nomination process. That's what Jamie Harrison was fighting with Nate Silver about. I don't know. I mean, the arguments seem fairly legit on both sides. I do know they were planning to do this prior to the debate. I mean, we had talked about it. Even after Ohio had changed their law, they were still planning to do it prior to the debate. So I don't think there was any reason for them to be afraid that Joe Biden wasn't going to make it 3 weeks later in the nomination process prior to the debate. They may be, floating, pushing it up a little bit to close the window in which this question about Joe Biden is happening. But I think they just found it to be the most prudent thing possible to do it prior to the debate. We'll talk more about that later. And the reason why I'm so exercised about that is in part because of the threat that Donald Trump poses to this country. I think, honestly, the pick he picked last night represents perhaps the greatest threat of all the potential picks he could have had. Because it's not J.D. Vance who's coming in there. It's Peter Thiel.
Runs a private intelligence corporation, among other things.
It's both his ideology and where his business interest lies. We'll get that in a moment. I want to try and lighten the mood a little bit. And so let's play this clip from the RNC last night. This was...
They moved the official nomination to a private thing before the convention to avoid anti-genocide protests. Yeah. Vance makes me uneasy, too.
This wasn't even at night, actually. This was in the afternoon. As you know, Rudy Giuliani just 2 days ago, I think it was on Monday, was told by a federal bankruptcy judge, I believe, that, yeah, no, we're not giving you bankruptcy protection so that you can get away with not paying off your debts and what you owe from your defamation case. And part of it, my understanding in reading briefly, part of the decision was just that the judge is like, you haven't complied with anything. Like he's disbarred, but he came in there and he's showing total.
Pretty sure the most consequential election was 2000. Think of what we would have not had if we had President Al Gore. Imagine if we didn't have President Ronald Reagan. Imagine if we didn't have President Ronald Reagan.
Total disrespect to the court. And they're like, you know what? Dude, if you can't supply the bankruptcy court with what you need to file for bankruptcy, why should we trust that you're going to take any part of this process? Go pay your debts. Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do.
Okay, now that we have that. By the way, I disagree. Nate Silver is 100% correct. In that exchange, I don't know if you guys were watching that go down on Twitter, but this is where I kind of left it. Reagan won in a landslide, Bush Jr. didn't. That's true. Imagine if we didn't have President Nixon, who's been getting credit lately for some reason, even though it was his SCOTUS appointments that started dismantling the New Deal. True. Man. It's just a weird living. This real-life emperor has no closed moment. He obviously shouldn't be president for 4 more years. Everyone knows this. It's incredibly revealing. Which people are willing to lie about. Yeah. Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. That's true. Folks, I believe it might be close to be Jover. Hi, DT and chat. I'm all not in because it's Jover. It might be. Dems now believe Biden will exit. Several top Democrats privately tell us the rising pressure of party congressional leaders and close friends will persuade President Biden to decide to drop out of the presidential race as soon as this weekend, folks. That is literally a couple days away. The 81-year-old president, now self-isolating with COVID, remains publicly dug in, but privately is resigned to mounting pressure, bad polls, and untenable scrutiny, making it impossible to continue his campaign, the Democrats tell us. The private message distilled to its bluntest form. The top leaders of his party, his friends, key donors believe he can't win, can't change the public perception of his age and acuity, and can't deliver congressional majorities. The president is being told that if he stays in, former President Trump could win in a landslide and wipe away Biden's legacy and Democrats' hopes in November. The pressure to step aside as a candidate has been rising to intolerable levels, especially over the past few days. Democrats fully expect polls after the RNC to show a possible blowout that could bring down the Democrats in Congress too. Quote, his choice is to be one of history's heroes or to be sure of the fact that there'll never be a Biden presidential library, said one of the president's closest friends. I pray that he does the right thing and he's headed that way. Yesterday's AP poll showing nearly 2/3 of Democrats want Biden to withdraw from the presidential race ricocheted through the White House and Congress. A panic pressure campaign is pounding Biden has been relentless and coordinated. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer told Biden in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware on Saturday, the day of the assassination attempt on Trump, that it would be best if he dropped out. ABC News first reported Dems on Capitol Hill want him out and worried they'll lose winnable seats if he doesn't. Former Speaker Pelosi, mama bear of the campaign, the mama bear of the campaign to get Biden out, told him he could destroy Democrats' chances of taking back the House. We're told she's also worried about donations drying up. Amazing. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries delivered a similar, if not more subtle, message to Biden. Former President Obama has spoken loudly with his silence and his former aides trashing Biden in public. Bill and Hillary Clinton are doing what Obama's doing, and so are their former aides. We increasingly hear top Biden aides, including ones who initially urged him to fight on after the disastrous debate on June 27th, just 21 days ago, are saying that it's now when, not if Biden announces he's not running. Democratic insiders were hoping to avoid this. They love and respect Biden and appreciate his historic accomplishments. ? As we told you in a behind-the-curtain column 18 days ago, a Democratic official said Biden will not be dragged off the stage. The goal is to let him walk off the stage. But he couldn't take the hints loud as they got, so it's come to this. He's forcing people who like him and respect him to resort to try to shame him, a well-known Democrat close to the West Wing told us. Biden can't be forced out. He has the delegates. No one can physically pry them away. He needs to do it by his choice and his terms. If Biden wanted to stay in, he'd be impenetrable thanks to the liberal leaders and congressional bloc caucus. But his closest friends believe he's fought the good fight and will succumb to reality. The White House told us about the Schumer and Jeffrey conversation. The president told both leaders he is the nominee of the party he plans to win and looks forward to work with both of them to pass his 100 days agenda to help working families. In recent days, the president has become more committed to staying in this race, said a senior Biden aide. The Biden-Harris campaign tells us if the facts matter, and they should, here's one: President Biden is a Democratic nominee, and he's going to win this November. That's not a... only one of those is... neither of those are facts yet, actually. Biden is Catholic. He's immune to guilt. At a counter-programming event outside the GOP convention in Milwaukee, the deputy campaign manager, Quentin Fulks, told reporters that Biden is not wavering on anything. The president has made his decision. But Biden is doing two new and telling things, listening more and asking about Vice President Harris's prospects against Trump. That's why you see all these leaks about Biden being open-minded. He would hardly talk to any naysayers weeks ago. The most likely scenario is Biden bows out and endorses Harris, but also flicks to letting the delegates sort it out if the party feels otherwise. That would aim to diffuse any criticism that the Democratic Party was being undemocratic. Harris would be hard to stop, perhaps impossible, if the Obamas and Clinton joined Biden, Representative Clyburn, and the Congressional Black Caucus in backing her. It's not clear whether the coordination would be so fast and clear, however. Don't underestimate how badly some Democrats simply want a ticket that can win in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Win those, and Democrats likely win the presidency. Lose them, and they're toast. Whew. Don't look at the polls in those states, though. So, folks, it is possible that Biden might actually step down. It's not 100%, but it's been more possible than it has been in the past couple of weeks. That's for sure. So definitely, we will see in the next couple of days. Since basically it's already the weekend, I'd say likely. It's definitely the most possible that it has been at this point. I guess what happens in the next couple of days will determine, or we'll see, and hopefully we'll have something to report on Monday. In any case, folks, it's right under 7 o'clock. We got through all the articles, so it's time for me to get some food. Thank you all. I appreciate it. Thank you, Heath. Thank you, Michael Hassler, for modding the chat. I appreciate it. My apartment smells like bacon. Nice. If you guys enjoy the content, don't forget to hit the follow button. It really does help us out. I appreciate each and every one of you. Join the Discord, folks. Friday end of day news dump. Yeah, maybe so. Consider joining the Discord, folks. Check out the new merch store, folks. Check out the new merch store. Stuff is there and things are happening. I appreciate all of your support. You guys are what makes this channel grow. Thank you for all your subscriptions and biddies and follows and likes. Thank you to the people on YouTube. I see you guys. I appreciate it. Take care, all, and love y'all. Thank you. I appreciate it, Avon. Thank you. As always, folks, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. I love y'all, and I hope to see you guys in the next one Monday. We'll see if we have any more historic news. Thank you all. See ya. Hang tight, folks. We're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bye-bye.